Hi, I'm Jason, and for some reason I make music as Sycamore Willow. Today I'm here to talk about sound design. I think of sound design as getting from point A to point B, and that's how I will cover it today. I don't consider myself a sound design expert, but I've been doing it a lot lately in my partnership with Luke Elliott. Luke and I have been trading sound files around, making some songs and a record, hopefully more than one record together. So today I'll share the process I did creating one particular set of sounds, and then soon I hope to share an entire track from this particular sound design session. In reality, I'm going to recreate what I did spontaneously, so that you will lose a little bit of the spontaneity today. So one of the things I hope you can take from today's video is that sound design is not a process that I find it helpful to enter into with particular goals or particular expectations. Hopefully that doesn't sound bad to you. To me, that's great. Part of the freeing thing I've experienced with the sound design I've done working with Luke is that I have no expectations other than to experiment and ideally feel delighted by the outcomes, which is for sure what happens when I've been just experimenting with no plan. Sounds happen that I would have never even known how to make or to imagine. And that is 100% the reason to do sound design, is just enjoy those surprises without any particular purpose in mind other than to just take pure pleasure in sound, which is why we like to make music. So with all that said, I'm not saying the process I'm showing you today is some sort of repeatable process I encourage you to do. I guess I want you to sort of zoom out a little bit and understand it as an example of what happens when you leave yourself open to surprise and when you use some simple tools in a particular way. The sounds I'm going to be playing with today were started on my Rhodes piano with a phaser pedal that I built from a DIY kit. And then I edited that sample down and then processed it through the Morphagene made by MakeNoise, and then also Beads by Mutable Instruments. One more little lesson today that I would encourage you to take, especially if you're a novice with Eurorack or modular synthesizers, is that I'm going to make the embarrassing confession that I often don't patch very much and just use the knobs to play around and have fun. I'm a relative novice at modular, and I do enjoy the experimentation you get with patching, and I understand patching, but sometimes it's just more fun and immediate to dive in and start twisting knobs. And so hopefully that's another takeaway for you today. If you're curious about Eurorack, but you feel intimidated by all the things you have to know to start patching, just know that that is not a requirement. You can start off with a few essential modules, like the ones I'm going to show you today, and just use them almost like effects pedals and process them with the built-in upgrade path of later being able to use different patches and do really interesting things as part of your sound design process as well. Okay, that's a whole lot of talk. Let's get into making some noises, because that's why we're all here. So I'm going to skip over the steps of recording the Rhodes through the phaser pedal, because that just feels like basic recording engineering. And I'm going to focus more on what happened as I entered into the sound design process. Let's just start off by listening to the sample that I brought into Morphagene. And Morphagene, they're called reels. So let's listen to the entire reel of the Rhodes with the phaser pedal. So as a sample or a reel goes, there's lots to work with in there. In my experience, kind of a long sample on Morphagene can result in a lot of really cool surprises. So I try to put pretty long ones in there. So you'll notice that this indicator here is green. And what that means on Morphagene is that the reel that you're playing back is being played back at the same speed that it was sampled at. So there's no detuning or tuning up, pitching up going on. I'm going to go over a few of the controls here really quick, just so you can hopefully get a sense of what's happening as I get into the sound design here. So it's helpful to think of Morphagene as playing a piece of tape, and that if you think of that piece of tape as a line, that line section you can think of as the reel. So what we just heard now is an uninterrupted playing of that line, which is, I think it was around, 20, 30 seconds or something. And it was played from start to finish. So one of the really basic things you can do with Morphagene is not play it from start to finish and adjust the length of how much you're playing back from within that line. So just to illustrate from the sample we just were listening to, this is the gene size, right? So this decides how much we're going to play back, the length of time that we're going to play back. And this slide knob here controls where the start point is, right? So if we say we're going to play a shorter section of the reel that I just played, right? Let's say we want it to be half as long. It would still start at the beginning, but then we could slide this and say, no, start from the middle if you're going to make it half long. And again, I'll kind of show you how these work with the sample, and it'll probably be better than me explaining it to you. One more knob that I'm going to talk about here, one more control, sorry, I should be more technical, is the morph knob. I'm not going to try to describe what it does, but keep your eye out for the morph knob. It does some miraculous, really cool things. I'm not going to try to describe what all it does, other than to say that it adds a bit of randomness. And as I mentioned before, part of the goal for me with sound design is to be delighted by surprises. And this is 100% the surprise and delight knob on the Morphagene. Okay, so let me start to kind of illustrate what these different controls do before I get into patching in another unit. So let me start playing it, and then I'm just going to shut up for a little bit until I get to something interesting to talk about. So I'm just going to stop there for a second. Obviously, all I did was play with the size, the slide, and the tuning. Some of the inexplicable magic happens, like when you play a sample backwards and detuned a little bit. It gets it just starts to feel magic and delightful. Even like this is not the first or even the second time I've worked with this particular reel, and it's still really fun. It's probably not the best instinct in the world, but sometimes I just sit down and listen back to some of the sounds I've designed, and they make me happy. So, all right, let's jump in and let me kind of show you what happens when the morph control kicks in. So, now we have something of a nice pad going, right? Which maybe you want to stop and hit record on this when you're in the middle of a sound design session. You're like, oh, this will be useful. It's a nice pad. It's got some stuff going on in the stereo field. And there's that weird little high-pitched thing going on in there that I love. But now let's get even weirder with the morph knob. Okay, so you can see some of the effects of messing around in there a little bit. Now I'm going to take it a step further, and we're going to patch in beads. So I'm going to move the camera over to look at beads, but I'll be kind of going between both units a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to set that up right now, and I'll start talking again. So now I've got Morphagene going out and then into the left and right inputs of beads. I'm not going to really fiddle with beads a lot. There's a lot of great videos out there about beads. I'm not going to try to top them. But it is another granular processor. And, who knew how different all kinds of granular things could be? Now I'm finding out. So for whatever reason, during this sound design session, I decided I was going to go try to learn more about beads and fiddle around with it as the sample came off of Morphagene, and that's what led me to this, was just experimenting. So you can see on beads, again, I'm not really patching a whole lot at all, right? I'm just going in and then out. And so you can take a look here at the different settings I have. I've got the cold digital setting on. I've got the time here about 10 o'clock, density about the same. Pitch is just a little bit to the right. I've got these interesting attenuverters. I think that's the right word for what they're calling these on beads. Oh well, maybe I'll fix it with another correction. But anyway, these do a little bit of kind of internal patching for you. So you'll notice I have this turned a little bit to the left, and what that's doing is it's wobbling the pitch a little bit. So I don't even need to, patch in my own wobbling. The shape of the modulation here is pretty much a triangle. The size of the particles here is, a little bit past 1 o'clock. I've got a little bit of feedback going, a little bit of reverb. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have going on here. Yeah, I think that's all that I have going on here with beads. And so it's just going to pick up the sound from Morphagene and start doing its cloudsy, beadsy thing. Having clouds and beads both in my modular, hoo boy, so much fun, so many things for me to do. I've been finding that my modular rack is less about sound generation and more about sound processing. For now, I'm sure that'll change. Anyway, let's hear what this sounds like through just beads. So it, I guess I would describe it as, adding a little more space, and you can hear a little bit of that wobble from the pitch in there as well. That's nice, kind of adds a little bit of chorusing. So now I'm just going to kind of like start stepping through, on Morphagene, stepping through that reel a little bit in different ways. And then what I hope to show you is like how I just started discovering melodies in that sample, and hopefully I can recreate some of that delight for you of like all of a sudden finding melodies inside of something like this when you're messing around. And then in the end, I'll share the file, the sound design session that got me so excited about this. And like I said, ideally that sound design session will end up in a track on a future album. kind of ease off for a little bit. You can hear, hopefully, that when I was playing with this and getting all excited, I was like, I can almost create a composition just by turning a few knobs on Morphagene. It feels unfair. And the morph knob has so much to do with it. The morph knob is configurable, by the way, so that way you can feel a little bit like you're in control of it. Now with the reverb off, I didn't 100% capture here what happened in the sound design session. So like I said, I'll share that track. Hopefully you got a sense of like just small changes to the gene size, the slide, and morph could create these almost like symphonic swells. I was just so happy. I hope that my outsized happiness is shared at least in part by anybody who's watching this. So on that note, I think I'm done with what I wanted to show you today. This all started off with a little noodle on the Rhodes piano and ended up in this sort of beautiful, dreamy sound design piece that I just can't let go of. So I really hope you enjoy it. I'm going to leave the camera running on some gear porn and let you hear a good chunk of that sound design session, though not all of it because it's kind of long. Thanks for watching today, and I hope you enjoyed it.